Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in again. I hope you enjoyed the intro. That was me chasing around a little white tip reef shark in Panama. That's the northwest corner of Panama. It's called a little out of a little town called Santa Catalina. It was actually unbelievable diving. We ran into a whale shark and all that, so I'll probably post that on one of these episodes. But anyways, it was two different white sharks that or white tips. That the one that I snuck up on in the beginning is different than the one that I actually chased around. But anyway, on to the video. So on this episode, we're gonna put the mid deck on it. So I showed you this clip on the last one where I just cut the angle. I didn't actually show you installing. What I've done is I put like a 1-inch crown in the deck. So I'm just bending this to match into the mid bulkhead into the boat. So I just make it so I can bend it off and then put it in there. I have a little 18-foot Campion, and it has self-bailing decks in it, but it doesn't drain unless the boat's on step. So I've been very adamant to make sure that this boat, if we like kill a fish and we have blood on the deck, we can just put the hose on and it'll all run out. So I'm pretty sure with a 1-inch crown, everything it's gonna be a lot nicer deck. So anyway, this is what I did. I bent it into a 1-inch crown, and then I take the angle iron and I just relieve the corners so that it'll fit with the 1-inch crown, because it doesn't matter. It's welding to the bulkhead. All it is basically because we're going to bolt the deck in on this thing, so it's just a flat bar coming out is all I want, so that I can put some riv nuts into it so I can bolt the 1/4-inch plate down to it. So, and then create the crown in it. So you'll see through the episode. I'll walk you through it. Anyways, thanks again for tuning in. So the bulkhead that I'm attaching the angle iron to, I cut that level with the back transom, the top of the transom. So, and then the two outside corners, I should say, they're level with the transom, and then the center has got a 1-inch crown to it. So like I've said before, we're kind of making this up as we go along. So everything's kind of a build as you go, but it's working out so far. Everything seems to be lining up all right, but it's kind of the actual fabricating part of it without having a true informed plan of it definitely becomes challenging, right? Like you put a 1-inch crown in this, and then that affects pretty much the rest of the boat as you're building it, right? So you have to kind of figure out how to make everything work with forming and all the rest, but it seems to be coming together pretty good. I definitely can't complain about the way everything's working out. So hopefully the continuation of it is the same way. So it's pretty wild. I don't know, any boat builders out there, I would think this would be interesting to them. Like you look, the whole hull on this thing is 1/8, right? So they've put little, it's like a 1x1x1/8 T that they welded into as stiffeners in order to keep the rigidity of the hull, right? So most times nowadays, from what I can gather, unless I'm wrong, correct me if any boat builders watching this, but most of the time it's like a 1/4-inch bottom, 3/16 up the sides. After you get to the reverse chine, that's 3/16, and it starts getting up into the upper structure of the hull, and that would be 1/8, right? So, but this thing's entirely 1/8, and they've tried to overcome that with the thing. So very interesting. Anyways, it's neat to see the way they've done it. Okay, so this boat was designed with inboard. So inboards, the engine compartment needs to breathe, right? So they create an air box, which this is. And this air box, if you look at it above me there, it kind of goes up onto the side gun of the boat, and it's got like a scoop that pulls the air into that tube that I'm grinding underneath. It pulls it into there under the deck, and then it comes into the engine compartment so the engine can breathe. So Mike had a good idea. He's like, well, why don't we just turn them into a way to get air into the cab, so we can just divert the air. So we cap it off here, which I'm doing, and put that plate on, and that plate's also going to be used to bolt the deck down, right? So it's kind of a win-win. And then we'll just put a hole in the back of the cab rather than allowing the air to go to the engine compartment. We'll just put a hole in the cab so that air comes as we're traveling. It comes in through the air box into the cab. So we'll get like hopefully a like cooling in summer. We'll definitely get cooling in the summer, and then who knows, maybe we'll even get a little bit of enough airflow to get condensation problems and all the rest. So total win-win situation. It was actually a really good idea, Mike. So the hull on this thing is twisted up like a pretzel because it's pretty thin. So anyway, I'm putting the side plates on for the deck to bolt to. So everything's kind of bent and twisted, and I don't know, she's out of shape badly. So anyway, I'm just putting a couple of chains on it and a come along, and I'm going to weld a clip to it to pull the deck back in on it. So you can see here, I stick my finger in it, there's quite a bit of a gap. See how it's tight on each end of the thing, on each end of the flat bar, and then it's loose in the middle. So anyway, I'm just going to pull it in and then tack it and all that. So, but there's definitely a trick to tacking like this. If you look, I'm welding, I should say. I'm welding that clip on there. It's got a little hole in it, and I'm welding that on the forward side of the plate. And you can't really tell. The come along is pulling the direction, because where I have it mounted, it's pulling more from the back side. So it's trying to pull against the weld, or with the weld on that. So I should probably, maybe I'll make a video here and show you what I'm getting at. But if you can, you'll see right here, I can pull on that thing pretty hard. The more surface area, obviously, the stronger it is. If it's only a 1/4 inch, you can only pull so hard because it cantilevers it over, and then it can break it off. But if I had a wider base, then it wouldn't do it. But anyway, like I say, you'll see I can pull on this pretty hard with the come along. Like, I'm obviously leery, right? I'm not going to stand in front of it and like put my tongue out. So, but you can pull pretty hard on that thing as long as you're not pulling in the wrong direction from it. So. And then I weld it up, and then you'll see the next one. It's a little bit more obvious where I tack on the back side of the clip, because my angle of my pull is in the other direction. So, like I said, I'd said something in previous videos too. I'll do a video of it tomorrow, and I'll bring it into this clip and show you exactly what I'm talking about. It's actually pretty wild, because I'll weld this on, and then I'll tack it in place, and then I'll let the come along go, and I just have to like tap it with a hammer. I don't even have to try. I could actually probably just give it a smack with my hand and it would break off. So I can put a 1/4 ton come along on that thing, pull on it, it won't break off, and then I can break it off with my hand afterwards. So I'll show you what I'm getting at. It's kind of cool the way actually it works. I'm going on and on and on. Sorry. So like I had said before, I welded on the back side of it this time, right? Like the last time you could see that the weld was on the other side of it. So I welded on that. And I think, I don't know, maybe the video doesn't show it. I can see it, but you can see the angle of the chain is pulling more towards the front side of the boat. So you weld it on, obviously, the back side, and then it's got to try tearing the weld rather than just opening the weld up and breaking it off, right? So I know I'm terrible at explaining stuff. Like I said, I'll do a video on this. So anyway, I pulled all the sides in, got it all straightened out, and then welded it all up. So it's ready to weld, and then I cut the deck on to make it fit. Okay, so we need a center plate for the deck to bolt to. So I just stripped a chunk of 6 inch, or cut chunk 1/4 inch plate into 6 inches, and then stripped another piece into 2 inches. So the idea is I put the 1 inch crown into the deck, so I just calculated out the angle that's required for a 1 inch crown over, I think it was 9 feet at that point, because it's a 10-foot beam at the widest point. So I calculated that out, and then I had them put a bend in that to match that crown, and then I took the 2 inch piece and I had them bend that same crown to that. And then what we've done is this plate was a little bit, because we only had 8 feet of plate, so it's like 9 foot. So it doesn't matter. I welded a little chunk to it, and then I'm drilling holes to plug weld that little 2 inch piece on top of it. So then we're going to have that plate will be sitting in the center of it, and then the 2 plates will match the crown into it. So there's all the holes into it, and then there's the 2 inch plate. So I had to add a little piece to it. That's what I'm doing right now. So just clamp a couple of chunks onto it, make it fit. I actually just bended the little piece myself. I had that back eddy bend the rest of it, but I bent the little chunk myself, and then I just welded into it. But that's what's going on here. It's actually a fair bit more work to make the deck so that they bolt in, but the end result would be easy. Like, it's probably going to be not super easy to get the decks up, but a lot easier than what you've seen in previous videos. It would be cutting the deck off this thing. We would just be able to unbolt it and get a pry bar and break loose the Sikaflux on it. So, and then it's totally replaceable. They just put another one down on it. So, and the end result, I think, is worth the time and all the rest of it to make it easier down the road. Keeping everything straight is obviously, that's a big challenge. Every time you weld something, it shrinks and pulls and all the rest of it. Aluminum's a little bit more forgiving than steel, or stainless especially. Stainless is brutal. But anyway, it takes a bit of farting around, but you can usually make it work. Okay, so like I said before, I've had the little 2 inch strip formed to the same angle as the 6 inch strip. So, and then all the holes are obviously underneath it there, so I just clamp it down to that, and then I plug weld all the holes so that it stays there. And then the idea is the deck will come up tight to that, and then get bolted through that and hold it on down in the center. So you'll have a flush deck all the way across, right? Because you've got a 1/4 inch deck that meets up to that. So it should look good at the end. So I'm jumping around welding this thing on purpose. You want to never concentrate welding one spot. You want to backstep and do whatever you can to make sure that you're not just welding from one continuous spot to another, just so it doesn't have the opportunity to pull. You gotta trick it if you can. Okay, so I'm installing it into the boat. So, like I said, we go across from the 2 flat bars from the cab back to the back bulkhead, and then I'm putting angle iron down to, there's a keel plate that goes all the way through the entire boat, so that it's like 3/8 thick, and it's like a T-post that goes all the way down. It actually ties right in. The boat actually has a keel on it. It goes probably about 6 inches below the boat. They didn't put reverse chines back then. They just used a keel, right? So that keel plate has to sweep through the water sideways, so it creates the same idea as what a reverse chine does on a boat. I think the reverse chine probably works better. That's why the technology changed to that. But this boat has a keel. So anyway, I'm tying into that on the bottom of it, and then that comes up to the thing. So if you can look, I have a clamp right in front of me holding it. So the plate, I straightened it out. I kind of give it a couple of smacks here and there. Usually you can peen the weld and it'll come back straight. So I give it a few peens, straightened it out as best I could, and then I've got a chunk of angle going across the whole thing to hold it perfectly flat, so that when I put my stiffeners down, the angle iron down, when I put that down to the keel, it stays nice and flat all the way across. Anyway, that's what I'm up to right now. I only show you putting in one. I think I put in 4 other angle iron stiffeners to it, so it's it should be pretty rigid. So. Dancing around on all them little 1-inch T-posts that I was talking about that they use for hull stiffeners. Was kind of a hateful little spot to work. Every time you put your foot down, it gets hung up underneath it and all the rest. But anyway, work my way through it. All little holes to the back side of the boat, the bulkhead that you can see. We're gonna fill all them. We're gonna try to create like almost a sealed air pockets and couple of chambers in the boat, right? So if there was a leak, the bilge pump doesn't have to pump everything out. So this was a near miss. I'm putting the deck plate up there so I can fit it to cut. And I had my cell phone sitting on the deck, as you can see with the red arrow. And I just kind of dropped the plate. It wasn't even intentional. I just dropped the plate and I don't know, I got a little carried away. And it hit like about 2 inches away from my cell phone, didn't smash it. Which actually wouldn't have been a terrible thing. Frickin' things are a nightmare to control your lives. But anyway, that was pretty funny. I actually had to look at the tape afterwards when I was reviewing it, kind of dropping it for the video and all that. I looked at the video, I'm like, holy shit, I almost wrecked myself. Anyway, pretty funny. So I just kind of slip the plate into place right now and line it up square to everything, and then I can mark out where I want the length of the plate to be, and then around the air boxes up front too. Like you can see, it's not quite up against the side gunnel, so I mark out where the air boxes have to come. It's way easier than trying to measure it. If I had to put everything else in place and then tried measuring it, because I wouldn't be able to put the 4x8 sheet up there to fit to it. It just turns into like a problematic. Like we don't want to be replacing plates because I cut it wrong, right? So it's easier just to put this into place. Like I could measure it, but like I say, it's just one more thing that you have a problem with. So anyway, here it is, the finished product. So if you can see right at my foot, the camera moves, but that's that center plate, right? So what I was talking about before, where everything comes up flush, right? So you can see it right there perfectly, right? There's the center plate and everything matches up tight to it. And then you bolt it down, Sikaflox it, and you got a continuously flat deck. And then there it is around the air boxes and all that. Okay, stay tuned everybody. The next episode we're going to be putting on the aft deck. So we got a kicker bracket going on the starboard side of the boat and a little swim platform for dive ladder and all the rest on the port side. So this is the plate we're putting up there. Anyway, really appreciate everybody watching. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed it. And like I said, like and subscribe if you're enjoying the content.